Good morning, good day, good evening, good night, wherever you're down in from. Appreciate you down in for another more videos. Real quick, this quick video is just an introduction into the book of Ruth. It is the last book that we'll look at in the quarter for the last two sessions of this quarter. And so it's only 4 chapters, but it's not a big book, but it's a very interesting, profound book. We see God's character shine through this, given the weird outside circumstances of someone and how God blesses their how do you say their faith and their courage in the midst of the adversity in their lives. So when we look at this, we're looking at this takes place during the time of the judges. So during that time, obviously, there's a lot of societal uplifting, a lot of fighting. There's a lot of going back and forth. There's a lot of instability in the country and in the land. And especially during this time, Israel has got a famine problem. So this man, Naomi, and her husband, Elimelech, end up going to Moab along with their 2 sons to find, to live because there's a famine back home. And of course, the 2 sons find 2 wives, which are Orpah and Ruth. Now, tragically, Elimelech dies, leaving Naomi a widow, and then the sons end up dying. So that leaves, Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah as the ladies that are left, right? So they really have nothing, and in this society, nothing is passed on and nothing is kept. The women themselves are considered property. So it's a tragic thing for these ladies. Now, Ruth decides to go back home to Israel because they say that the famine's over, they can come back, and also that she wants to be with her people. Okay, so and she implores her daughter-in-laws, Ruth and Orpah, to stay in Moab because they are Moab women, right? And she pleads with them to stay, but only Orpah stays. Ruth continues to go with Naomi to take care of her, to be with her, and she's loyal to Naomi, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So Naomi accepts Ruth going back with her. Now, with her going back, they are widow, they are indigent, they're poor, and so they rely on the blessings of others and the blessings in the field. And Boaz sees Ruth for who she is and how she's taking care of Naomi, right? And that leads to love. It leads to marriage. And and out of that relationship where she meets Boaz, and Ruth marries Boaz, and their son Obed, he becomes the grandfather of King David, and that of course leads through the lineage to Jesus. So again, we're seeing someone on the outside, someone different, someone broken, someone hurt, someone in a strange situation, but they have great courage, where God uses that for his ultimate plan, which is pretty awesome. Because as we know, since the fall of Adam, God has led everything up to the cross. And this is part of it. And that's pretty profound. It really is when you stop and think about this. Now, Ruth identifies herself as a Moabite throughout the book because it's just her identity. That's who she is. But it also underscores and reminds us of how God works beyond the boundaries that we set on people and places and things. Where a lot of the Israelites believe that they are the chosen, and God has a special plan for them, and he does during this time. It doesn't mean that God is not, cannot affect the world beyond the borders, which he does. And in doing so, he brings in this person. And it reminds me of Rahab. Rahab was the lady in Jericho that was saved because of her great faith as well. And again, we see where Rahab played a very important part of the lineage of Jesus as well, right? So we continue to see this where God is bringing in these special people. And you would think that something as important as the lineage of Jesus would be tightly protected, and it is. God has a plan for everything, but he's showing that everybody can be inclusive into his plan, and that is pretty amazing. It's pretty profound. The book of Ruth comes into 4 chapters. The prologue, when it talks about the problem with the family loss, and Ruth also pledging her loyalty. Ruth meets Boaz in chapter 2. Ruth meets Boaz. Chapter 3, Ruth and Boaz at the threshing floor, where Ruth seeks Boaz protection and it leads to marriage. And of course, chapter 4, where Boaz redeems Ruth. They get married, and Obed is born, linking him to David. So, it's short, but it's a very interesting book in regards to it. To me, it's just one of those hinges in history. It's one of those things where a lot of things come together at a crossroads and continues forward. And it's really interesting to see how that plays out. Now, the historical context, the book was probably written around the Persian period, it's 55 to 33 BC. And some scholars suggest an earlier moniker date than that, but it's just one of those things where it reflects a peace. It's one of the rare times that we see a peace between Israel and Moab, and it contrasts a broader period of instability, as indeed it is described in Judges. So it may just be for that window that there's that peace for this story to take place, and that's what's really profound. God is, like I said, God's hand is in the middle of all this, shaping all this. And if you see it, when you step back and you look at that story in the midst of the historical background, it's pretty awesome. It really is. So now, we look at the features. It's one of those. It's a very it's a very dramatic, vivid storytelling book. With nearly 2/3 of the book is dialect, so we have a lot of talking in this, and a lot of people consider it a classic story in the world literature, so to speak, because it kind of stands out a little bit from the archival stuff that we see historically in the books of the Old Testament and the New Testament. But for the most part, this is a very classical story. But I think it focuses in on a bridge in history, and it pulls back in the midst of what's going on. Like I said, it's a very powerful loyalty, redemption, and divine providence book. And it's an amazing book when we sit there and look at it in that context. Now, real quick on Holman, Trusty Holman. I look at the profile that they have in the book, and I want to share that with you because it's pretty interesting. One of 2 books in the Bible named after Gentiles. You know what the other one was? Luke. Told through speeches. So we know there's a lot of speeches. There's no miracles in this book, none at all. That's another thing that's pretty profound. We don't have any prophets. We don't have any miracles or anything like that going on. There's no villains in the book. That's pretty interesting. Maybe the family can be considered a villain. Everyone is named in the book of Ruth. All of the main characters face a crisis of some sort, and the decisions reflect their priorities. It's a love story. Even though the word love only appears once, several prayers and blessings are uttered, but everyone prays and blesses someone else. Yes, that's pretty interesting. So two key concepts: Chesed, which is God's love, close to the idea of grace, and Goel, which is kinsman redeemer. So I think it's pretty interesting that we look at the basis of this book. It's very small, very compact, but it tells us a lot. There's no villains, there's no prophet, there's no prophecy in this book. However, it just focuses in on the daily life of a very extraordinary young woman and her courage and her devotion to her mother-in-law, and it leads to greater things. And when I read the book of Ruth, what does it say to me? It tells me what kind of courage, what kind of devotion do I have to my God? What do I trust God with? In regards to the things in my life, the adversities in my life. Am I holding on to the cross? Am I holding on to His word, moving forward? That's pretty much what it comes down to, really. And also look at the fact that where do I fit in the overall big picture in the grand scheme of things? I don't know. The life that I live, that hopefully it makes a difference in my son and maybe those around me. Who knows, the people that I teach, whether it be the young people or Sunday school or people in the videos, what kind of effect does it have? Hopefully it has a good effect, and you learn something from the videos. If one person comes away and is saved from every word that I've said, then it's worth it. Truly, it is, because that's the ultimate goal. We'll trust God with those and go forward. Anyway, in regards to the book itself, that's a very cursory look of the book. Uh, I encourage everyone to read the book. It's only 4 chapters. And with the 4 chapters, we will be looking at those chapters in the next 2 sessions in Sunday school for our studies. But encourage you to read those on your own, read some of the history behind it, get an idea of these women and what they're having to go through with this adversity. You will not be disappointed. It's a very good book. Thank you for watching as always. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. And once we get to the comments, we'll read and reply. If you would, like and subscribe to the channel. That way, every time we post a video, you'll be notified when those videos post, and you can watch them at your leisure. And as always, we'd love to have you here at Webb Baptist to be a part of what we're doing. You're invited to our services. Come join us as we worship God and give him the glory that he deserves. Okay? Until next time, take care and God bless.